Welcome back to BLOCKTV. I'm Ron Friedman, and this is Cryptonomics, where we meet the innovators, disruptors of the blockchain and cryptocurrency ecosystem to catch up with them on their project and gauge how they feel about the cryptosphere in general. Today, we're delighted to be joined from San Francisco by Dan Held. He's the co-founder and director of business development for Interchange. Dan, good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Let's get right into it. Interchange, you're a co-founder there, formerly product manager at blockchain.com. You've been active in the industry since 2013 in San Francisco, where a lot of the action here is going down. Uniquely placed to give a well-rounded perspective. But let's begin with Interchange and your work there. You seem to be hard at work laying the groundwork for the entrance of institutional investors, and that's where we're at this stage, right?
That's right. I don't think we're going to see the herd. I think we're going to see more of a trickle rather than a flood right away. And those institutions are looking for specific types of foundation that has been laid for them in order for them to come into this space. So I think we're seeing different components of that being built. Interchange is one component of that around reconciliation and reporting. You've got other components like custody, which is being worked on by BitGo, Anchorage, and others. Mm-hmm. And then you have, some of the bigger players coming in like Bakkt and Fidelity. So I think we're seeing a really forward-thinking companies coming into this space and building this institutional framework is necessary in order for these bigger companies to come in.
And when you're talking about those players, what are their specific needs that Interchange is trying to offer or to put in place?
So I'm sure many people are familiar with this problem. It starts with the issue of accounting and tax. So if you've wrangled your crypto data together before to pay your taxes, you know the pain that that these institutions are dealing with. So what we do with Interchange is we take all of your on-chain data, all of your exchange data, all of your custody data, and all your bank account data. We pull that all together, sanitize it, standardize it, and then reconcile it. And then you can output that format into your general ledger accounting system, like your Advent Geneva or NetSuite. So we're sort of like the translation layer from the crypto world to the traditional accounting world.
And so this is not for your day trader, this is not for your individual investor, but definitely something that these big companies need to have in place before they even take the steps, yes?
That's right. I mean, having portfolio reconciliation and reporting is a core necessary need for any crypto hedge fund, VC, family office, OTC desk, fund administrator. So the fund administrator is the crypto hedge fund accountant. We are that core critical infrastructure that they all need in order to run and calculate their current balances and all their trade and transaction history.
All right, and it does appear that 2019 we're just at the beginning, but definitely this year we're already seeing steps by household names when it comes to the finance sector, but we're not there yet, and there seems to be some elements holding it back. Perhaps regulation being on the top of that list. And what's your take on that? I mean, where are we gonna? What's going to be that moment where the plunge, so to speak, where people are going to jump into the space in a big bad way?
Yeah. So the way that I've been phrasing it is that this is a play. And the backdrop has been set, the actors and actresses are in place, the orchestra is in the pit, and all it takes is the conductor to begin the show. Now, what will the conductor do to begin the show? I'm not sure. Right. I think if we look timing-wise, the halving event for Bitcoin in 2020 is a really big deal. If a Bitcoin ETF is approved, that would be a really big deal, because that unlocks tens of trillions of capital that is sitting in 401k accounts. I would say those are two really huge catalysts, and catalysts can move the market. So I think 2020 is maybe when we see kind of the market see that bullish sentiment again. Mm-hmm. Those two are really big, sort of very natural events that will occur. Outside of that, there's a bunch of random news that will move the market, and I can't really predict that. But
of course.
Right now Bitcoin is still the risk on trade, which means that if the mainstream markets dip, it's likely going to dip. But given that the Fed backed off of, essentially tightening the monetary policy, given that they backed off that might be a bullish sign for the overall macro markets, and that might bleed over into Bitcoin and crypto. So that could be another bullish indicator. I believe that Arthur Hayes from BitMEX talked about that in his last blog post.
Okay, interesting. Now, so you mentioned the ETF, and that kind of takes me directly into the I don't know if you want to call it groundbreaking, but definitely important report that came out from Bitwise in their presentation to the SEC for the Bitcoin Future ETF. Their finding there, and we had hints of it, and it's something that's pretty known in the space of wash trading and fake volume numbers. How did that report find you? I mean, what was your reaction to that? I know we've had people here, even people who have been in the space for a long time, who said, presented with that information in the way that Bitwise laid it out, fundamentally changed their view of the market.
So we had all known for a long time that wash trading was occurring. It's just really, really hard to calculate. And I think that Bitwise and really like Hunter and those guys over there, they did a really fantastic job coming up with a methodology in order to calculate what the wash trading volume was. So I really applaud them for going through and being so methodical and coming up with a great presentation too. It's very clear, very easy to understand. They even built out a website, which was fantastic. So I think definitely showed off their willingness to be part of the community and to show this data not only to regulators, but everyone else. I think that's really, really incredible. Wash trading is very hard like I said, wash trading is very hard to calculate. I think this was an important step in getting their ETF approved, or any ETF approved, is when the regulators can trust that the pricing data is accurate. That gives another degree of confidence and another piece of brick that is laid down for this foundation. So I think that was a very important step. I'm not, in terms of regulatory policy, I'm not sure how much that helped, but I know it did help.
All right, because I mean that's definitely the approach that they say. We're going to present the facts. This is our analysis based on the data and the research. The situation is pretty dire if you ask the outsider. But they're saying, okay, but this is a good thing. Now that we know this, we can work with that, or we can get beyond that. What's your impression there? Do you think the people at the SEC are going to look at it the same way, or are they going to take the opposite way and say, all right, if these are the actual numbers, if this is the methodology, then we're already worried about manipulation, and this just confirms that it's never going to happen.
Well, I think I forget which SEC commissioner might have been Hester Pierce. I believe she talked about how the gold markets had a significant amount of manipulation because the gold markets are global. Some of them are semi-regulated, and Bitcoin, as defined by some agencies, might be a commodity. And so I think it was well understood that there was market manipulation going on. As with any financial market, mainstream U.S. equities are not out of that realm. Every single bank has paid fines in that regard.
Yeah, hundreds and millions, yes.
Hundreds of billions.
Billions.
So it's not necessarily about market manipulation. It's about the degree to which the market is manipulated, and are there surveillance methods put into the order book so we can see that sort of activity. I believe Gemini and a few other exchanges have added surveillance, which sounds bad, but I think it's a very good thing for at least order book health. The surveillance that they're doing is just on their own order books, making sure that people aren't doing wash trading.
Right.
So,
and it seems that the presentation, the report, split exchanges up. So you have the good guys, so the top 5, 10 exchanges that are regulated, that are operating by the book, and then the vast majority, which essentially don't cut it. And you're in San Francisco, birthplace of some of those exchanges. I'm sure you're familiar with the names and probably the individuals behind them. What's your sense? I mean, all right, is this the core group that we can move forward with, that's trustworthy and dependable, and kind of try to brush everything else aside?
Yeah, it's funny. Back in 2013, we just had Mt. Gox and Bitstamp. So to see how far we've come is incredible. The fact that these exchanges are even talking about surveillance on their own order book, that they're talking about institutional trading is fantastic. I think this is a monumentous achievement that Bitcoin has survived this long. When it comes to individual exchanges that would be most applicable for like an index or to be used for certain sort of financial instruments, I think it's pretty clear that they're going to be US based. I believe that in that Bitwise index, a majority of those were US based. I think only one but one was US based. US-based exchanges have a lot of regulatory compliance that they have to jump through already. And I think they're in a very good spot to be the exchanges that we can rely on for more complex financial instruments.
Excellent. Now, I'm going to take you back, quote yourself to yourself. You wrote in a tweet earlier this month, and this is, again, deep into crypto winter. This is dated March 10th. You're more bullish than ever on Bitcoin, and you gave 5 reasons why you're bullish. Let's maybe break them down a bit. First of all, do you still feel the same way 2 weeks later?
I do. I got into Bitcoin in 2012 with the vision that Bitcoin was going to be gold 2.0.
Yeah.
And I think it's largely executed along that roadmap and along that path. And we're on the verge of seeing what happens when institutional money, the biggest amount of money in the world, when they start to worry about things that Bitcoiners have been worried about for almost a decade now. Satoshi planted the seed of Bitcoin in the absolute moment of despair in the 2008 financial crisis. And that wasn't a mistake. That was a clear shot across the bow of central banks. And so I think as monetary policies continue to degrade, as socialist leaders continue to get elected, or populist leaders, people will continually look at where can I park my money that will be safe? Where can I park my money where it won't be voted away from me? And there's not many options. Outside of gold, there's Bitcoin. And gold is really hard to move around. It's not very divisible. It's not at all useful for daily transactions, where I would argue Bitcoin isn't.
It's getting there.
Useful. Yeah, it's getting there though. Yeah. It's getting there.
I mean, I'm gonna just read out the 5 reasons. So Bitcoin market cap is smaller than Starbucks. Less than 0.1% of the world owns Bitcoin. We have 441 days until the next halvening. Bitcoin ETF coming by late 2020, we just discussed. Record government debt and institutional plumbing is being built. So the fact that just 0.1% of the population owns Bitcoin is a good thing because of all the potential for everybody else.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, if we look at an adoption curve, we're still extremely early. They estimate maybe like 20 million people even like have a wallet. So I think, until it's kind of like in the 2017 bubble, I think everyone remembers like their aunt, their uncle, their mom, their dad talking to them about Bitcoin, their friends from high school that they haven't talked to in 5 years. We're definitely in a bear market here, but we haven't even seen Bitcoin really chip away at the mainstream financial markets at all. It's more been just a novelty until this moment. So I've been waiting 7 years to see this moment when it turns from novelty into something real. And
what is that moment for you? Is it pensions in Fairfax County investing, or part of their investments in Bitcoin? Is it Fidelity stepping in? Is it J.P. Morgan coin? What can you put your finger, or is it all just this perfect storm coming together?
I think the aggregate value of all of this together would be represented in the market capitalization of Bitcoin. So when Bitcoin's market cap hits between like 2 and 10 trillion, I think that would be a momentous sort of achievement, as Bitcoin then is recognized as a valid contender for gold. And I think that's just the beginning, though. Bitcoin as a store of value can eat into many other asset classes, including all fiat currency and real estate. Real estate is often used as a store of value, especially on the West Coast for Chinese investors. They take China and they invested in West Coast US real estate and Canadian real estate. And so I think if Bitcoin hits a few trillion market cap, not only is that a momentous achievement, as then it looks as if it is within striking distance of gold, is it also means that the volumes are super liquid. It also means that Bitcoin's security budget, or the amount of money spent on mining every year, has now become very large, and it becomes nearly impossible to do a 51% attack based on game theory.
Sure.
So I think that's why it's such an important moment.
And I just want you, if you can, to elaborate a bit about the halvening. Maybe a brief explanation about what it is and why you think it's significant.
So Bitcoin produces X amount of Bitcoins per block, which typically occurs every 10 minutes. Now, every 4 years, the amount of Bitcoins given in a block, or the block reward subsidy, drops in half. And so that essentially dictates Bitcoin's coin issuance curve. So Bitcoin started at 0 Bitcoins at the beginning, and then it's been printing Bitcoins in a very predictable fashion all the way until the year 2100. So every 4 years, the amount of coins per block that are minted drops in half. And the next one is happening in 2020. So what that means is that with any price of any asset in the world, it's simply supply and demand coming together. Now, when if there's not enough supply to satisfy demand, then the price increases. If there's not enough demand to satisfy supply, price decreases. So with the halvening event, we now have half of the coins that used to be minted, half of those aren't hitting the market now as sells. So what that means, if the demand stays constant, only half of the selling pressure will exist. And so if that occurs, then Bitcoin will slowly bleed upwards organically, which begins the FOMO price rise cycle. People buy in because they see the price going up. It's a funny phenomenon. Satoshi, I think, really fundamentally understood human behavior. All your friends that asked you, hey, how do I buy Bitcoin at 10,000? Well, none of them are asking you how to buy Bitcoin at 4,000. People largely move with the crowd. They don't like to be contrarian. So this, I think 2020 is important because we've seen this happen twice before, or 3 times before, is the halvening event happens before we see another big bull run.
All right, so that's hopefully coming up. And then your last point, the reason for being more bullish than ever on Bitcoin, institutional plumbing is being built, and I guess that's part of what Interchange are doing. So let's just circle back to that, and maybe you can reveal, what you're working on next, and what if you have any big anything big coming down the plumbing, so to speak, the pipes.
Yeah, well, we're a focused small startup, so we go and execute where we found product market fit, which is around portfolio reconciliation and reporting. So we're really heads down in 2019 during the cold crypto winter to make sure we go build and scale this product for customers that currently want to purchase it. Longer term, I think we're in a really cool position to help create standards in this space, and we've talked to a lot of other companies about this. We're sort of tentatively coming up with the idea of naming it Harmony, which would be a standardization of these APIs and CSVs that everyone has to use on a personal level and a business level, and have them be much easier to work with in terms of some sort of standard. Because right now, it's an incredible mess if you trade it across multiple exchanges, multiple blockchains. It's insane.
All right. So looking forward to hearing more from you in the month and then years to come. Dan Held, co-founder of Interchange, thank you very much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure, and thanks for waking up early for us. For those of you at home, we're going to be right back. Don't go anywhere. In the meantime, check us out on social media. We're following, and we're responding there too. See you in just a minute.